Hi, I'm Helen Salcase, and welcome to the Mega Vitamin Formula Q&A session number 1 with Andrew Saul. Our first question is, do you have any opinion on the effect of megadosing with vitamin C in individuals following a ketogenic diet? Given that, as I understand it, the vitamin C molecule is very similar to the glucose molecule, and both molecules use the same cell receptors, is it likely that vitamin C could kick someone out of ketosis? Is it possible vitamin C could cause an insulin spike, for example?
Well, hello, and I'm Andrew Saul, the Mega Vitamin Man, and this is our first webinar, and we have a bunch of good questions, and we're going to start with this good question. The ketogenic diet, becoming a little bit more popular, is not the normal way that I would recommend people go. I really think a plant-based diet, I do not mean vegan, a plant-based diet where most of your diet is plant, more than 50%, but less than 100%, is the best diet. So the ketogenic diet, in my view, is not ideal. I know there are benefits to it, and many of the things in it I like. I like the fact that it doesn't run away from good fats and nuts and fish and things like that. I think that's all very good. It takes people away from sugar. Fabulous. Very, very good. But I'm going to say right off that I don't have a strong endorsement of the ketogenic diet. Having said that, no matter what diet you use, you're going to need vitamin C, because without it, you're going to die. And this is the way it goes. So everyone, every animal, needs vitamin C. Most animals make their own C, but we can't. Neither can gorillas or chimps or monkeys or other primates. Guinea pigs cannot. You don't see them on a ketogenic diet. You don't see gorillas on a ketogenic diet. And while we're at it, if you look at nature, you're going to notice the animals that are most like us are on a plant-based diet. Chimps are a pretty good example. Baboons are stretching it towards paleo. Baboons will eat meat, but not very often because they can't get it. That's nature's way of making sure they don't eat too much, in my opinion. Gorillas are vegetarian. Chimps are omnivorous, but they lean towards vegetarian. And these are the animals in nature most like us. And this is one of the reasons I think the ketogenic diet might not be ideal for human beings. But no matter what, you need your vitamin C. I think vitamin C will make any diet better, and I think a lack of it will make you sick. There is no upside to not taking C, and there's no downside to making sure you have it. The RDA is for everyone, whether you're on this diet or that, and I think if you're on the ketogenic diet, you need vitamin C at least as much as anyone else. Now, it is true that ascorbate ion is very similar to the glucose molecule. In fact, ascorbic acid is only 4 hydrogens smaller than a glucose. Glucose is C6H12O6, and ascorbic acid is C6H8O6. So it's 4 fewer hydrogens. The molecules are very similar in their formula, but if you look at their molecular structure, they're not quite the same. Nevertheless, it is true that the body can absorb either one readily, but what happens once they get inside is very, very different. You're concerned about an insulin spike. I would say that glucose could be a problem. You have a lot of candy, a lot of sugary stuff, and you'd get a flood of glucose or other sugars, which could definitely mess with your blood sugar. Again, this is one of the advantages of the ketogenic diet. It's keeping you off sugar, good. But then a good plant-based whole food diet also keeps you off sugar because you have more complex foods. You get your starches and your vegetables and your whole grains, and then they're broken down slowly into sugars when your body needs it. It's a flood of sugar that causes trouble. A flood of vitamin C does not. I'm unaware that vitamin C has any problems in provoking an insulin spike. I will tell you this, though, that if you are taking the time to do urine tests for glucose, you will find if you take vitamin C, it will throw those tests off, because you're right, the molecules are similar, and the urine stick test can't tell the difference. In the same way that if you go in for tests and have your blood drawn, I always tell the phlebotomist, or the vampire as they are called in the health biz, that I take vitamins. I don't even say I take vitamin C. I just say, look, would you please write this down? Takes vitamins. That's all you got to do. And then if you have elevated, what looks like an elevated glucose reading, they may realize that it's actually because you're taking vitamin C. My understanding is that vitamin C does not mess with that, though. I only do it as a precaution. With the urine stick tests, it will, but with the blood levels, vitamin C is not supposed to interfere or interfere very much. Nevertheless, why not give a little simple disclosure? Takes vitamins. If they ask you which ones and how much, it's none of their ruddy business. You talk about that with your doctor if you want to. The phlebotomist is there to draw blood without hurting you and get a good sample. They don't need to know your life story. Just say, look, dear, please write down takes vitamins on my chart. So vitamin C is your friend. I can't think of any diet that scurvy will make better. So take C, no matter what you're having, is a good diet. The better your diet, the more C you'll get from it. But I think there is a danger in some diets, particularly those that push you away from fruits and vegetables, that you're not going to get enough C because those are the foods that contain the C. So a plant-based diet actually is a high ascorbate diet. Another way you can get more vitamin C is by having sprouts. Not everybody realizes this, but there's a fair amount of vitamin C in many sprouts. And vitamin C is conveniently available in supplement form. So vitamin C is your friend, and I think it'll make any diet better. If you find hard evidence that it does not, you let me know, because I'm always learning. But so far, I haven't seen any.
Okay, thank you. Her second question is this. Are there any supplements that can help to reduce carbohydrate cravings? I am trying to get my exceedingly fussy eating 5-year-old to eat any vegetables and a broader range of protein. He wants to eat fruit all the time, and if I don't restrict his intake, he will eat every piece of fruit, nuts or seeds too, in the house. In one go, for example, he once ate 10 apples in one sitting. He has a seemingly unquenchable desire for sugar, and I don't know what to do to change that. He does not have any junk / refined sugar, etc. in his diet. His grandfather is an alcoholic, and I'm really worried that there may be a genetic component to this. I read once that alcoholics are major sugar addicts. It's not just that he is very fond of fruit. I am deeply concerned that it is more like an addiction, especially seeing the way he behaves when I don't give him all the fruit that he wants. He is also fully prepared to go hungry rather than eat vegetables. He won't touch juice or anything similar. Bribery does not work, and any advice would be most gratefully received. Thanks to you, Andrew and Trevor. I really appreciate what you both do.
Well, thank you for the kind words, first of all. Appreciate that very much. And you know, a lot of people are listening to that question and are thinking, man, I wish my kid would eat that many apples. He won't touch them. So I think on the scale of really bad mom problems, this is not at the top. I think it's great, personally, that the child is going to get fruit and that you're not letting him have candy. Now, that's a huge step in and of itself. I don't know any kid that's died of apple overdose. I'm sure that somewhere on the internet, you're going to find an urban legend that says that too many apples will kill you. But I used to give my kids all the apples they wanted. I'll grant you, they did not eat 10 at one sitting. But when we went to the cider mill to get cider, I would get a bulk discount by striking up a deal. And it wasn't easy to run that deal by the owner, but he caved in when I wanted 35 gallons of cider. And I brought my own jugs to save another 25 cents. And I ended up getting lots of cider, and we had a pickup truck. And Helen, by the way, who's my daughter, and her brother, Jason, and I would be loading the cider in the back of the truck. It was really pretty funny. Now, I let them have all the apple cider they wanted, and that's even more of a glycemic challenge than apples, because with apples, you've got to chew them, and it takes a while. Whereas with cider, glug, 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 I can drink literally half a gallon to a gallon of cider a day. And right now I will, because it's in season. This is November and it's cider season in New York State. Woohoo! I will grant you that if you drink a lot of cider, it's a lot of sugar. And I take extra multivitamins with B complex, and I take extra niacin when I have that much cider, and I don't have it right before bed because it is a lot of sugar. Now you might be saying, well, cider is just crushed apples. Not quite. I've made cider at home, and I helped out in a mill one summer when I was a young man. Cider is not just the apple made into a liquid. It is filtered. You crush the apples and you then filter them out. There are actual platforms where they put layers of apple between a material that lets the pulp of the apple and the skins and the seeds stay in the press, and the juice comes out the bottom. So you're getting an extraction. And whenever you extract juice from a fruit, it's going to be wicked sweet. Now there's some pulp in cider, you can see it, that's that stuff that settles on the bottom when it sits. But basically, cider is almost like apple juice, and that means it's got a lot of sugar in it. But eating apples is different because now you've got the pectin. Now you have the soluble fiber, and a lot of it. Bet your child's not constipated. Bet he doesn't have diarrhea much either, because pectin works either way. Isn't that amazing? Pectin's good if you have the runs. Pectin is good if you're constipated. Pectin, by the way, is what they put in jams and jellies to make them thicken. Well, you don't need all that sugar now, do you? And you know that because you don't give the child sugar. And I want to really take a minute to say, hey, that's really good. I wish every mom and dad would not make sugar as available as it is to their kids. And for that matter, let's go to the school principals and school lunch people and get them in on this as well. So with apples, you're getting fiber. You're getting soluble fiber. You're getting the whole apple. It takes time to eat it. And I think that that makes it a lot better. If you are having a child that doesn't like vegetables, I think it's pretty important that they like fruits. And tastes change. When I was a kid, I couldn't stand tomatoes. I like them now. And I know people that have also had these tastes change, and give your child some time. 5-year-olds sometimes just go through weird stages. Yeah, you probably don't remember this, but you did too. And I have two grandchildren. One is a little younger than 5. The other one is a little older than 5. And I would say that as the years go by, they're probably going to develop slightly different eating habits than they do right now. So if your child doesn't like veggies, all the more reason to give them fruits. And if you want to get low glycemic fruits, try to get fruits that are not as sweet. For example, raisins and grapes are really, really sweet. Bananas are sweet, but they have a lot of bulk to them, a lot of starch to them. A kid can't eat too many bananas. At least, well, maybe your child can if he likes 10 apples. But I don't know too many kids that can put down more than a couple of bananas. And try other fruits as well. Blueberries, really good example. And they have that wonderful blue color. They've got all those plant colors that are really good and help prevent cancer. Blueberries are a little pricey. Try to get organic because the other ones, they do spray, unfortunately. So the extra money for organic blueberries is worth it. And you can buy frozen organic blueberries. We do this a lot. Blueberries are not sweet. They just aren't. Strawberries, when they're in season or frozen organic, are also not very sweet. Most of the time when you have strawberries, they've been sweetened into a syrup. Cherries, same thing. Most of the time when you have cherries, they've been sweetened in pie or in some kind of other presentation. I realize you can't always get cherries, and I realize fruit costs a lot of money. I also think that the money you save on not buying a lot of sugar and junk food can go into fruit. So I think fruit is good, and I think you look towards the less sweet fruits, the problem may self-correct. And as far as introducing vegetables go, what I would recommend is when you want to serve vegetables, you've got to be a bit of a Tom Sawyer. Now this is a 5-year-old. So when you have a vegetable, put it on the table and don't give him any. Say, you can't have this, you're not old enough, and smile and pat him on the head. But maybe someday when you're a really big boy, you can have some if you want to. But this is just for mom and dad. Now that sounds really shallow and manipulative, and that's because it is. The other thing you can do is put 1 bean on his plate, or 1 pea, or 1/4 teaspoon of yellow squash. Now, if a child makes an issue out of that, you have a discipline problem, not an eating problem. And say, well, here, just eat that, and then I'll give you your apple. You can do that. You can also try vegetable juice. You know, vegetable juice is tastier than you think. Carrot juice is really pretty tasty, and it has a certain amount of sugar in it. Again, it also has soluble fiber. It's almost like nature knows what it's doing. Beet juice, believe it or not, beet juice is really pretty sweet. So you have other things you can do. You gotta be, the first rule of lion taming, I used to tell my students, the first rule of lion taming is you have to be smarter than the lion. So try the low glycemic fruits, try a little vegetable juice, try a little bit of coercion. You've tried bribery, good for you, that's worth trying. But try reverse psychology. 5-year-olds will fall for it pretty much every time. Give ridiculously small portions, try different types of fruits, and if you want to get them to eat vegetables, one thing I would do that never failed is I'd put cheese on it. Melted cheese on any vegetable transforms it, and children are likely to eat it. I don't like cauliflower. Oh, you don't like cauliflower? The Mega Vitamin Man doesn't like cauliflower. Put that on the internet, that'll go viral. But I don't care. I like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and I like the other things. I even eat kale. I grow it in my garden. But I don't happen to like cauliflower. I like cabbage, but I don't like cauliflower, unless it has melted cheese on it. See? So these are some things that you can try. You appreciate us. I want to appreciate you. I think it's great that you're doing your level best to give your child a good low sugar diet. Good for you.
All right, thank you. Our next question here. Well, first this, Andrew. I am based in Singapore, and I want to express my deepest gratitude to you for sharing your knowledge on megavitamins with us. It has been a life-changing experience for me since I first encountered your work in Fire Your Doctor. And not endorsing any specific brands has only increased my respect and esteem for you. The question is this. It was suggested that in order to determine an optimum dose of niacin for oneself, to gradually increase one's dosage until one experiences a flush. I have found from my experience of niacin usage that after regular use over a few weeks, the flush disappears, but then returns intermittently. Determine what is an optimal dose has appeared to be difficult for me personally. Therefore, if one does not have any known conditions or therapeutic needs, are there any detrimental effects if one takes a daily dosage of 500 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams, or even 3,000 milligrams, as Abram Hoffer appeared to have done for himself and not just his patients?
Well, I'd like to begin by saying thank you for your very kind words. I appreciate that. And no, I do not have any financial connection with any vitamin line or any health product or anyone that distributes or manufactures or sells or otherwise is in the health products industry. So I appreciate your appreciating that. It's been my policy for a long time, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback, so I think I better not sell out anytime soon. Thank you for keeping me honest, or at least trying to. You know, Dr. Hoffer said that's exactly what happens when you take niacin and you get the flush. If you continue to take the flush.
All right, hold on one second. Dad, you cut out there just a little bit as you started to talk about niacin. Could you start from the beginning? Thank you.
Abram Hoffer said that as you take niacin and keep taking niacin, although you flush it first, the flush will stop with time. So your experience is exactly what Dr. Hoffer would tell you or anyone to expect, and you got it. So you take a lot of niacin and you flush like crazy. Some people flush on just a tiny bit of niacin. I know people that'll flush on 50 milligrams, and the government, in its infinite wisdom, has placed a tolerable upper level of niacin at 35 milligrams. Now, the RDA is, only about a third of that. So it's laughable. It's really funny that they place a tolerable upper limit at 35. And that's because somebody somewhere flushed at 35 milligrams or might. And that's just goofy. Dr. Abram Hoffer said, we certainly need hundreds of milligrams of niacin a day for health maintenance. Now, hundreds could be 200 or 300. Hundreds could be 500 or 700. Hundreds can be anything under 1,000. And that's a lot more than the RDA. When you take any kind of level of niacin, any substantial level of niacin, you're going to flush. That's what niacin does. It's a vasodilation. It is something that happens, and as Dr. Hoffer said, with time it goes away. You experience that. Good. Now, you said that then the flush returns intermittently. Again, this is not surprising. Different things will affect this. For instance, the amount of food in your stomach, the amount of liquid that you are taking, whether your food is hot or cold. If you have hot food, you're more likely to flush. Whether you take aspirin or not, aspirin reduces the flush. Whether you are stressed or not. If you're really, really stressed, you're less likely to flush. But if you're having a really nice, relaxing day up at the cottage in the middle of the woods and nobody's bugging you, you might flush a whole lot sooner with niacin. Now, the solution here, of course, is everybody needs to go out in the woods and rest for a while, and our niacin bills will go down. But until that happens, extra niacin is good for extra stress. Medication can interfere with it, and foods that you're allergic to. Here, let me give you an example. I have to admit, I am a closet chocoholic. I really like chocolate. Helen will vouch for that, and so will my son. I am crazy about chocolate, but it makes me psychotic. Now, that's a problem. I have a real bad reaction to chocolate, and I really like it. And as London Smith said, the pediatrician known as the children's doctor on the Today Show and on the Johnny Carson Show, who won many Emmy Awards, pediatrician and orthomolecular doctor London Smith said, if your child really craves something, maybe you should give them something else. And going back to the apple thing, I'd like to say that it's that craving for apples that indicates maybe you should try other fruits, not that apples are bad. But in terms of chocolate, there's some good things you can say about it, but the amount of fat and especially the amount of sugar in there, it just isn't good. So I really like chocolate. And when I have some, and I will once in a while, if I have chocolate, I have to take a huge amount of niacin. Now, I normally take a modest amount of niacin every day, somewhere in the neighborhood of Abram Hoffer's most common prescription, which you indicate as between 1,000 and 3,000 milligrams a day. And I divide that in doses. It helps me sleep at night, helps me endure the stress of being a very famous public figure, as you can understand, and helps calm down my ego, which my daughter will also attest to. And you see, when I'm interviewed by somebody else, I can get away with anything. But when my daughter's interviewing me, it's all over. You see, if I don't tell the truth, I know she will upstage me and get in there and correct it. So I have to be honest with you. What a bummer. Having said that, you take the amount of niacin that you personally need. You know when you feel well. I know when I take chocolate, I have to take a huge amount of niacin, and I mean several thousand milligrams with a cup of hot cocoa or chocolate custard. I have to take an enormous amount of niacin. But if I don't do that, I need much less niacin. So you see, that's very similar to your experience. And if you took the time and bother to make a diary of all the foods you ate and the amount of niacin you took, you might even discover that certain foods don't agree with you. Abram said you can even find your food allergies this way. Now, we're not talking real big allergies. We're talking more of things that provoke you a little bit. And certain foods provoke people. Artificial color provokes a lot of people. Chocolate provokes me. My daughter is provoked by caffeine. I mean, join the club. We all have this problem. Oh, and my son, who's an attorney, he's provoked by having 1.5 pounds of red licorice. So no more Twizzlers for Jason. You see, we're all normal. You're normal. If you have fluctuations, it's a normal thing. And finally, your other aspect of your question is, if you have no known conditions or therapeutic needs, should you be taking a lot of niacin? No, of course not. Of course not. If you don't need the money, should you go to the bank and take out a loan? No. You know, if the garden doesn't need water, should you go out and water it? No. If the baby's asleep, should you wake the baby? No. If your dog is quiet and well behaved, should you teach it to jump up and bark? No. Leave well enough alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Your level of niacin is the amount that makes you feel good. And if you are very schizophrenic, or if you have bipolar disorder, or ADHD, or psychosis, or depression, or anxiety attacks, your need for niacin will be higher. And the reason you take more niacin is because it works. And it's safer than any, and I mean any, drug alternative. So if you're going to treat an illness, you use the vitamin first, like Dr. Roger Williams said. When in doubt, use nutrition first. So if you have an illness, you go in there and you fix it. But if you're fine, you don't need megadoses of niacin, except that a few 100 milligrams a day is orders of, well, it's just a huge amount more niacin than the RDA. So you see where the truth is? Once again, it's sort of in the middle. If you're doing well on a few 100 milligrams of niacin a day, you're all set, keep it going. And if circumstances change, increase the dose. And if you're doing really well on the high amount, read Dr. Hoffer's books. Read, for instance, Niacin, the Real Story, Dr. Hoffer's last book, which goes into a lot of the details of niacin therapy. And I think you're going to come out ahead. Any drug is more dangerous than niacin. And why take more niacin than you need? Take the amount that gets the job done. The same with vitamin C. You know that I'm a megadose advocate of vitamin C, but only if you need it, and only because it works. If you are healthy at a lower level, there you go. Good question. Actually, there's a couple of questions, wasn't it?
Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. All right, here's the next one. My question revolves around liposomal C. Andrew has mentioned this as one of the forms of C that can be taken, but I'd like to hear him address it in more detail, such as question 1. Can liposomal C be made effectively at home using sunflower lecithin, ascorbic acid, and a home unit ultrasonic cleaner?
Let's go to that one first. Let's do the first one first, because otherwise it becomes like a press conference. And I'd like to answer the second question first, and the first question third, and the fourth question before the fifth question. No, let's just do one at a time for clarity. Okay, good question. It's one I get a lot. I think we've had that question in pretty much all the webinars. Can liposomal C be made effectively at home using lecithin, ascorbic acid, and a home ultrasonic cleaner? No. Liposomal vitamin C cannot be made that way. An emulsion of vitamin C in lecithin can. Now, this will sound a little strange, so I thought, let's ask Dr. Tom Levy, and I just happen to have him here. If you've seen Annie Hall, the Woody Allen movie, Woody Allen just pulls Marshall McLuhan out from behind a billboard in a theater lobby. And it's really kind of funny because he just pulls this expert onto the screen. Well, I just happen to have Dr. Levy. No, I don't have him here, but I have his words here. So I asked Dr. Levy, and he said this: all I can say is that the simple ultrasonic treatment of lecithin and vitamin C does not make liposomes. I have reviewed the sophisticated testing of 2 different such preparations. Both of them had 0 liposomes. However, the ultrasonic treatment does result in a legitimate emulsion, which is absorbed much better than just regular vitamin C. However, that is just absorption into the blood, not enhanced uptake inside the cells, as with liposomes. So such a preparation, says Dr. Levy, can certainly help the sick patient, and probably more effectively than just regular vitamin C helps. The enhanced intracellular uptake of vitamin C, a critical, unique aspect of a good liposome supplement, never occurs with the homemade preparation. A liposome preparation also does not come in a dry capsule. however convenient this may be to take versus the thick, oily preparation. Now, there's a lot in this, and Dr. Levy knows a great deal about this, and he has a financial connection with a laboratory and a supplement line that makes liposomal C. Tom's the first to admit that, but he still knows what he's talking about. He's a physician and a cardiologist, and I consider him to be one of the really great vitamin C experts, and I love listening to him talk as well. And he's a good friend of mine. So the bottom line is, no, you won't be making liposomal C. You'll be making an emulsion, and that emulsion will be better absorbed because you're making a water-soluble vitamin C kind of into a fat-soluble form, and that will get you better absorption. And it's not going to be as good as liposomal C for the reasons Dr. Levy said, because getting inside the cells is different. Now, having said all this, I'd like to point out that divided, frequent, large doses of ascorbic acid also work. And I urge people to remember that I don't care how you get your C as long as you get enough to be well. So you want to go and make an emulsion, you go right ahead. As for me, I think it's enough to gag a maggot. I don't like the taste of it. I don't like that gooey, thick glop. I would rather take ascorbic acid in juice, cider for instance, or pineapple juice, which I think hides it very well. I prefer cheap ascorbic acid in fruit juice, and that would be my approach. So any way you want to do it is fine. There's an advantage to what you're outlining, but it's not truly liposomal. It's an emulsion.
Is liposomal C retained and used better by the body, making it a more efficacious use of vitamin C? From what I understand, there is no bowel tolerance that can be achieved from this form of C, and the body uses every bit of it at a much more effective use than they're saying ascorbic acid. Supposedly, this form of C means that you get the same benefits of megadosing of C with a much lower dose of liposomal C. So in other words, taking less liposomal C will work better, absorb well, and you won't indicate bowel tolerance. Dr. Tom Levy has talked about this, but I'd like to understand more and get Andrew's perspective. Thank you.
The advantages of liposomal C are that, first of all, you do get better absorption, and you get better absorption into the cells. You're going to get more out of each gram of C. The disadvantage of liposomal C is that it's about $1 a gram. Ascorbic acid is 20 times cheaper, maybe even 25 times cheaper. The cost of liposomal C means that it better be more effective. I don't know if it's 20 or 25 times more effective, but I'm concerned that there will be people that will take liposomal C and won't take enough because it costs too much, or that they won't like that somewhat gooey emulsion thickness and texture to it. Children don't always go for that either, whereas most kids will drink fruit juice, even if you lace it with vitamin C. I put all the ascorbic acid in a small amount of juice, stir it up, and have another glass of juice on hand with no C in it, and that's the chaser. So I give the child a little bit of vitamin C in the juice, saying this will be a little bitter, but scarf it down, and Helen knows that's just what we did. Stir it, crank it up, and then drink it real fast, and then give them the good juice, the one they really want with no C in it, and have them drink that slowly. So quickly down with the C, and then slowly with the fruit juice or any other juice. Sort of a vitamin C boiler maker. This is one way to do it. If you're giving the liposomal C because it has that emulsion, that thickness to it, you can chase it with cheese or yogurt or a little bit of ice cream. Some kind of dairy product will help to clear the emulsion. That's true if you take lecithin in general. Finish it off with a dairy product, a little bit of cheese, yogurt, or ice cream. I don't mean a lot, just a little, will help clear the taste out. You do not get to bowel tolerance with intravenous vitamin C. You do not get to bowel tolerance, to the best of my knowledge, with liposomal vitamin C. Bowel tolerance is with the liquid aqueous water solutions of vitamin C, because bowel tolerance is actually a change in osmotic pressure in the intestine. And it simply indicates that you're not going to hold any more. That's all. So bowel tolerance is not diarrhea. Bowel tolerance is loose stool or gas, flatulence, a little rumble in the tummy. That's close enough. That indicates saturation using ascorbic acid or any other oral aqueous water-based vitamin C. So I hope that helps to clear that up. Vitamin C, you take the amount that gets the job done. And it is true that liposomal C will get the job done at a lower per gram number. But in terms of cost, I think it's going to end up costing a lot more. And for people that are on a tight budget, I'd rather have you take lots of the cheap stuff than too little of the super duper stuff.
Thank you. Next question is this. With so many options for vitamins, different companies and people selling their own products, are there ways that we can decipher true options and quality of vitamins?
Sure are. And it's the old-fashioned way. And I hope you do this when you go to the grocery store. Read the label. You've got to read the label. And you have to read the side label, and you have to read the excipients part of the side label. Excipients are fillers and things that are put in to make a tablet hold together. You don't want to consume vitamin powder. You want to have a little niacin, a little thiamine, a little riboflavin. Ugh. You eat that powder, you're going to not like it. When I was a boy, my doctor prescribed a vitamin for me, a multivitamin. And it was a big orange capsule, like, it wasn't a capsule, but it looked like one. It was an elongated tablet. And my father and I were looking at that. We opened the bottle, and I said, my father, are these chewables? And he said, how about you find out? So I chewed this multivitamin, and oh, it was wretched. Ugh. The taste of vitamin powders is terrible. They're doing you a favor when they put them in a capsule. They're doing you a favor when they put the vitamins in a tablet. Now, in order to put them in a capsule, all you really need is to have a covering, usually gelatin or something like it, and then inside they'll add some inert powder just to make sure the capsule looks full and you don't think you're going to be cheated. So capsules have fewer excipients than tablets. But then you can't break a capsule, you can't score a capsule, you can't take half a capsule. So tablets have that advantage. Tablets are generally cheap, and the excipients in them hold them together. You have to have that, or you'd have a bottle of powder. You want a bottle of tablets. So tablets get it past your taste buds. Even then, if you open a bottle of B complex, or you open a multivitamin bottle and sniff quickly, you can smell it. And that vitamin E smell, that's thiamine. It has a smell of its own, as my dad would also say. So we read the label. You read the label to see what the excipients are. I never consume a product that has an artificial color or an artificial flavor. I mean, why? The only person seeing the color is me. It's not going to help my body be healthier because it was red. And artificial flavors, well, if you're getting chewables for your kid, why give them fake flavor? Get them the naturally flavored vitamins. They're better for them, and they taste a lot better. As far as preservatives go, if there's a preservative listed on the label, I probably would opt out. Instead, I would look for the expiration date on the product, or what is often done now, there's a manufacturing date on the product. And if they give you the manufacturing date, you yourself can decide if you think it's old. If they give you an expiration date, that's their opinion of when it expires, and you don't know when it was made. So I prefer a manufacturing date to an expiration date. Other things you can do, you can write to the manufacturer. If you don't see it on the label, you can still ask, because maybe the label's incomplete. Maybe they're lying to you. I don't know. Maybe somebody forgot. Write to the manufacturer and ask them for a full disclosure of every ingredient in this product and that product. Now, they may lie to you again, but I found that manufacturers tend to answer these letters, and don't phone call, because you're never going to get past the call center and you're not going to get anything. You have to send a snail mail postal letter on paper with a stamp, and that way they'll reply that way. and now you have a paper trail. It's taken me sometimes a while to get answers from companies, but I always do if I keep writing. And they will tell you, usually, one of several things. The first thing they might say is everything that's in there, and give you page after page after page of details. I like that. It's possible they won't answer at all, and you know what that means. You can write again or buy a different product. Or they may send you a throwaway letter, a garbage letter, saying our products are made with the highest standards and excellent purity and quality control, and then they don't answer your question, in which case I would go to somebody else. You can ask friends, but don't ask friends that are distributors for a certain brand, because they're going to tell you a vested interest story. Just ask enough people. Go to the health food stores. They have some bias because they're going to push the brands they carry. But a lot of health food stores carry many brands. I've been in health food stores that have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 different multivitamin preparations from different companies. And you can ask them, what do you think? You don't have to do what they say, but you can at least ask. You can go on the internet, you can do some searches. Whatever you do, you need to ask questions. I never endorse a company, and everybody asks me. I'll get a post on Facebook, well, I know you never endorse a company, but could you just tell me what one I should buy? Or people write to me, and I've had people do this. I know you don't tell what brand you use, but would you just tell me? I won't tell anyone. No, 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 no. You're going to have to do this yourself. You have to be a good consumer, and it's true with any product, especially something you put inside you.
Okay, thank you. Good advice. The second question is, believing your sincere intentions and convictions, is there one resource for, quote unquote, the vitamin protocol that best serves or helps what? I have found this protocol spread out throughout your books and the books of your amazing past mentors and co-authors, but the public around me will not go through all these books, nor consider what I suggest. I also forget where I got the specific information. So is there one resource for a vitamin protocol that best serves or helps what?
The honest answer is no. There isn't a magic bullet and there isn't a magic book. That's just the way it goes. I know we'd all like to just pick that lottery card that guarantees the $20 million, but let's face it, it isn't quite that simple. What I can tell you is, if you've ever been told to not read a book, go and read it. Some of these so-called consumer protection sites or anti-quack sites or doctors that have a very close tie to big pharma, they'll say, don't look at this, don't read that, this is bad. And I would go right away and read that for starters. So if you get a blacklist or an index, that's where you start your homework. I'm funny like that. You tell me not to read it, I'm going to want to read it if it's about health. The second thing you can do is you can take a look at your level of knowledge right now. If you're new to all this, if you're coming to me and you've never seen this crazy guy before, hi, the book you want to read is Doctor Yourself. This is my most popular book. It's an entry-level book, and it has a lot of simplified protocols in it and a lot of stories of clients that have healed themselves. It has a lot of different articles and topics. It's pretty comprehensive. It's not real expensive, and it's over 400 pages. So I would say start with Doctor Yourself. That would be my suggestion to you. Of course, I have a vested interest in recommending my own book. So let me counterbalance that by saying, I think Linus Pauling's book, How to Live Longer and Feel Better, is a really good book to start with. And Dr. Pauling has 2 more Nobel Prizes than I do. That doesn't have a lot of protocols, but it gives you a lot of basis. So I'm assuming if you want to go that far, that you've already read my book, you already have a lot of knowledge. Pauling's book, I guess, would be the second step. And then if you really want to go past that and get into this in detail, the orthomolecular treatment of chronic disease would be my suggestion. I'm the editor of that, but more to the point, there's over 61 contributing scientists academics, researchers, and doctors, physicians. The Orthomolecular Treatment of Chronic Disease is 800 pages. It's a big book. It weighs 4.5 pounds, and it is a lot of information. This is the book you can drop on your doctor's desk if they say, I haven't seen any evidence that vitamins actually cure disease. Well, just drop this book there, and there you go. As you look at Amazon or other bookstores, whatever one you like to go to, read reviews. Those reviews will give you a pretty good idea what people think. So Doctor Yourself is my suggestion for entry level. The Orthomolecular Treatment of Chronic Disease is my suggestion for advanced level. And in the middle, I think Linus Pauling's book is good. And there are, I'm sure, others. If you go to dryourself.com, my website, I do have a references page, and you might go through there and take a look at some of those books. And I have bibliographies by various people, including Dr. Robert Cathcart, the vitamin C expert in California, who used bowel tolerance doses of C. I have a bibliography for Dr. Abram Hoffer. I have Linus Pauling's nutritional bibliography, and you can check those, and that'll give you some more to work with. The best part about this is that you want to read this and share it with others, and I think that's great. So the holidays are coming. Stock up on these books and give them out to your skeptical friends, and watch their grateful expression when they open it up. Also, books are easy to read. No matter whose books you get, make sure that it passes this one test. Whenever I look at a new health book, I go to the index. If there's no index, I put it down. I want an index, don't you? Don't you want to find what you're looking for? Good publishers put in indexes. I think that's something you're entitled to. Go to the index and look up Cathcart, C-A-T-H-C-A-R-T, Robert F. Cathcart. If he's not in there, the book has nothing to say about vitamin C. Look up Pauling, P-A-U-L-I-N-G. If what they say about Pauling is wishy-washy or negative, put it down. Look up Hoffer, H-O-F-F-E-R. If Hoffer's not in there and referenced in there, it has nothing to say about niacin. Look up Williams, Roger J. Williams. You know how to spell Williams. If you don't see Williams, Roger J. Williams in the index, it has nothing to say about the B vitamins. Look up Shute, S-H-U-T-E, Wilfred or Evan Shute, both doctors. If you don't see Shute in the index, it has nothing to say about vitamin E as an Edward. You see? So as you look into this, you will make the right decision. Journalist Helen Thomas, thank you, Mr. President, the woman who started with John F. Kennedy and was at press conferences in the White House all the way into the new millennium, wonderful woman. She was asked once by students at a college, with all the conflicting information out there, what do we go to? What do we do? And she said, read and make up your own mind. I trust you. And so do I. Read and make up your own mind. The people that scare me are the people that don't want to go and read. What a shame. There's so much wonderful material out there, and it's so much easier now to get it than ever before. You got to read.
That's true. Our next question is this. I am suffering from androgenetic alopecia, cystic acne, and excess body hair. What vitamin regimen should I be on? I'm a 27-year-old woman who's sensitive to male hormones and would really like to know what vitamins can help.
All right. First of all, it's possible that this is a genetic situation. And if it is, it's difficult to work around the genes because that's sort of the program of how you work. But what's interesting is Dr. Roger J. Williams, remember him, is the author of the genetotrophic concept. Now this is sometimes called epigenetics. It's the idea that it isn't just your DNA, it's what your body does with it. DNA doesn't actually do it. DNA sets up templates and patterns for your body to run its biological processes. And if it's missing a pattern, it's sort of like if I buy a model of a car, a plastic model of a car, and one of the pages was missing, or you buy any product, you buy a microwave oven and one of the pages of the instruction manual is missing, you probably can still work the product. You can probably still put the model together, but you might have to go to YouTube and watch a how-to video or ask a friend or call the company and for more information. In other words, you can still do it. You can work around the omission. So with a genetic illness, sometimes you can work around the mutation or the omission. Vitamin C and niacin actually fix mutations in the DNA. So right away, if anyone has a genetic issue, the first thing they want to do is make sure they have plenty of niacin and vitamin C. And in the rest of this course, we talk about what that means. And of course, that's in my books as well. But in this course, we do talk about doses of niacin and vitamin C quite a lot. No need to repeat that now. The most sparkling example of this is Down syndrome. Now, Down syndrome, my gosh, that's really serious, an extra chromosome. And this is something that you would think is the ultimate genetic obstacle. And yet, Dr. Henry Turkle and Ruth Flynn Harrell, a wonderful woman at Columbia University, then at Old Dominion, brilliant woman, they showed that if you give high doses of vitamins, you can actually improve the IQ of Down syndrome children. And Dr. Henry Turkle, a medical doctor, actually took pictures of these kids and showed over time that their facial features became more normal. Now, this is heavy stuff. They're working around the ultimate genetic whammy here. So Turkle and Ruth Flynn Harrell were showing that vitamins actually change the physical features as well as the intellectual ability of Down syndrome kids. Therefore, eat right, have lots of vegetable juices, plant-based diet, no junk food. You know what to do. If you're eating a lousy diet and you're taking this course, you're not going to get away with your lousy diet anymore. The jig is up. You're going to have to knock off the junk food and eat right and take the vitamins as well. Now, you're sensitive to male hormones, and that's one of the ways this it might be an indication for you to use nutrition instead. Again, Dr. Roger Williams, when in doubt, use nutrition first. I'm sure you're seeing a doctor. It's very important that you do. Now, my note here, Helen says that you're also suffering from cystic acne as well as hair loss. That's what alopecia is. And when you have this kind of condition, doctors will often give you some kind of medication. And I would like to suggest to you that before you take a medication that requires you to sign off on it because it's dangerous, and some of the acne preparations are that bad, I would recommend that you try diet revision and go to that plant-based diet and drink lots of vegetable juices. I realize I sound like a broken record. All right, don't have a lot of phonographs records anymore. I realize I'm dating myself. I sound like a faulty 8-track player. Oh, we don't have those either. A CD with a skip in it. There we go. A bad Bluetooth connection. I keep saying the same thing. And what I'm saying here is that you're going to have to get out a vegetable juicer and use it. The best way to clear up your face is to have lots of vegetable juice, especially the carotene high foods. Carrots, obviously, anything orange and anything green. Green vegetables are also high in orange carotene. You just can't see it because the green chlorophyll's in the way. That's why leaves are green all summer, and the chlorophyll dies, and then you can see the other colors in autumn. Those colors are always there. Isn't that kind of cool? So when you have green leafy vegetables, you also get carotene, which means you can juice any greens. You can juice kale, you can juice cabbage, you can juice lettuce, you can juice anything practically that you can eat raw. The more vegetable juices you have, the better your skin is going to get. This is the one thing I'll bet your doctors have not mentioned. And before you go to dangerous medication, I would do some juicification. Any juicer will work. The better the juicer, the more efficient it is. You tend to get more juice, less waste. They last longer. They're easier to clean. I have no financial connection with anybody who makes or sells juicers, but get one. You drink lots and lots of vegetable juices, and I think you're going to see an improvement in the skin condition. And as far as alopecia goes, I don't know. If I had the cure for hair loss, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I would be on my own private Caribbean island surrounded by big piles of money. We don't have that to worry about, although it is a rather nice image. Hair loss in animals can be due to bad diet. Zinc deficiency can cause hair loss, for instance, in rodents. It's possible that if you take a good multivitamin with a little extra zinc, or a little extra zinc as a supplement, a little extra to me would be about 5 or 6 times the RDA, in the neighborhood of 50 to 75 milligrams of zinc a day. Zinc gluconate is a good form. Zinc oxide is not, but zinc gluconate is readily available. That may help. It's possible. Just the vegetable juicing may help. When Francis M. Pottinger, MD, studied cats, he found that animals fed a cooked food diet would develop patches of hair loss. And when they were given fresh raw food, the hair regrowed. I am not guaranteeing this is going to work, but I'm saying anything that might help, that won't hurt you, would be worth a shot. And you cannot hurt yourself by vegetable juicing and taking a few multiples of the RDA of vitamin zinc every day. Long answer, but this question, I think, really deserved a good answer.
Our next question is this. Does adding sea salt to water increase absorption of vitamins and minerals? If yes, is that true for all vitamins and minerals such as magnesium? What amount of salt is recommended? And if one salts their food, is salt in water necessary?
Wow, it's just amazing what ideas people get sometimes. The one thing the American diet does not need is more salt. Only about 10% of the salt you take in comes from a salt shaker. Most salt is in processed food, packaged food, and restaurant food. When I make soup, when I make the various things, I put salt in it, but I don't put in as much as they put in the processed food section of your grocery store, in those frozen convenience foods, or in restaurants. Salt is the #1 food additive. If anything, I would avoid it, not add it. I will concede that sea salt is good because it has some trace minerals in it, but I would just go for those trace minerals and not take the salt with it because we have so much. Salting your food, if it is necessary to get somebody to eat something good for them, like my soups, or maybe Junior doesn't like eggs and you want him to have an egg, you put a little salt on there. I understand that. A little bit of salt makes bread taste better. You make your own bread. When I make my own bread, which I do, with a bread machine my daughter gave me, by the way, I put in salt. I use less salt than the recipe says. And I know it's less salt than you would get if you bought your bread. So I would reject the idea that we need to take more salt, or that we really need to take any, because it's automatic. It's in so many foods. I have not yet talked to a person who said that their doctor found out they were suffering from a sodium chloride deficiency.
The next question is this. Can vitamins be taken with piping hot beverages such as tea? If yes, is this true for all vitamins and for minerals such as magnesium? The writer mentions that her husband put niacin in his tea and the cream curdled.
Well, niacin is a weak acid. It's nicotinic acid. If he had put a couple drops of lemon juice in there, it would have done the same thing. So calm down. Niacin is a weak acid. Vitamin C is a weak acid. Your stomach has strong acid. As soon as you consume food, talk about curdling. That's exactly what happens in your stomach. In fact, the inability to curdle makes little children or elderly people have digestive problems. It's important that certain things be made slower and more solid so your body has time to digest them. You don't want food to go shooting straight through you, because we all know what that leads to. By the way, when you take niacin with hot, you'll have a flush quicker and more intense. Can you take things with hot food? The answer is sure. And one of them is niacin, because niacin is heat stable. Niacin is added to most breads and pastas. And it can stand the heat of manufacture. It can also stand the heat of cooking. Niacin is heat stable. Vitamin C is not. Most of the B vitamins are heat stable. And you'll find to some extent vitamin E is heat stable, and that if you make whole grain bread with wheat germ, it would still have some vitamin E in it. But I wouldn't go heating up my vitamin E. I would keep my supplements in a nice non-hot environment, like a cupboard away from the stove. The only time I would worry about having really hot stuff and taking vitamins would be with vitamin C or a probiotic. A probiotic could be killed off by hot food, because when you make yogurt, you have to be careful that the temperature of the yogurt isn't too high. I think the ideal temperature is in the neighborhood of 115 degrees, and that's not even a very warm bath. So you're looking at body temperature. Your body temperature is 99 or so, so yogurt is only moderately warmer than that. And if you took a probiotic or yogurt with really hot food, it could kill off the beneficial bacteria that you want. By the way, your stomach acid won't. Your stomach acid will not kill them off. They're not called acidophilus for nothing. Acidophilus means acid loving. So these things can get through the stomach acid.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. I have a relative with the following problems and need your advice. He has high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and the doctors have prescribed medications, but they are unsuitable for him. Despite several changes in medications, the situation has not improved. What vitamins and minerals should he take to improve?
Okay. First of all, you need to understand that there isn't just a vitamin to take here. You need to look at your entire lifestyle. For high blood pressure, if you're overweight, you've got to deal with that first. And that's not a vitamin, sailors. We have got to make sure that if we're overweight and have high blood pressure, the first thing you got to do is drop that weight. I know this myself because I had ballooned up. I wasn't taking my own advice, and I got kind of careless, and my weight went up and my blood pressure went up with it. And then I had to look at myself and say, you are a hypocrite. You're not doing what you know to be right. And then I started having lots of vegetable juices. I abandoned desserts. I went back to a much more plant-based diet, and I lost 35 pounds. And my blood pressure came right down, just right back down. So that's the first thing, and there's no way out of this one. Now, if you're thin, if you're skinny and you've had blood pressure, you better be talking to your doctor, because we want to find out why that is. Second thing is stress. Stress and tension will raise blood pressure. Your job, your family situation, where you live, what you do, how you think, how you feel, what you've been through, how you react to stuff. Even the American Heart Association has acknowledged that meditation can lower blood pressure by 10 or 11%. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, because if you want to lower your bottom line number from, say, 90, which is high, just high, to 80, which is not high, that means you can go from 90 to 80 by meditating. Good idea. So if you can get meditation to replace medication, that would be great. Now, maybe that won't be enough. Maybe you need medication, or at least for now. And Abram Hoffer and I would tell you that if you have high blood pressure, you've got to get medication, because it's life-threatening. You've got to get it under control, and then you can work on the other things. You can't lose weight in a week. You really can't lose much weight in a month if you do it right. You want gradual, sustained weight loss. It takes months and months and months. In the meantime, you have to lower high blood pressure with medication if it is dangerously high. And that's a decision for you and your doctor. So make sure you have done that. If your cholesterol is high, this is where the doctor, unfortunately, is probably not going to give you the best available treatment, which is niacin. Now, elsewhere in this course, we talk about that. In Niacin, the Real Story, we talk about it some more. At dryourself.com, we talk about it some more. The best way to lower low-density lipoproteins and to raise the good cholesterol, the high density, is to take niacin. And niacin also lowers triglycerides. It is the most effective way. It is the cheapest way. It is the safest way. And it is the flushingest way. And doctors tend to back away from this because they don't want you to have a flush, or because they're believing the nonsense on TV that's casting aspersions on niacin. Niacin is safer than any drug, and I mean any drug. Statins are, in my opinion, dangerous. And because we have an alternative, we should try the alternative first. So niacin would be the route to go. And I would take that along with the other B vitamins as a group. So in answer to your question, B complex in general, divided doses, I would take it at least 3 times a day. Niacin to the point where you have success. By the way, there was a time when I had high cholesterol. This was many years ago. And I started taking niacin, and it went right down. So I'm walking, talking proof that overweight and not taking niacin are going to aggravate these two problems. And finally, there is magnesium. Wonderful way to help lower your blood pressure. Magnesium helps to relax muscles in general. It helps to work against calcium. Instead of people taking these various drugs, they ought to try magnesium first. It's called the therapeutic trial. You give it a whirl. You start taking it, see how you feel. The RDA magnesium is around 300 to 400 milligrams. Most people don't get it. The amount that's therapeutic is usually only about twice that. And if you take too much magnesium, it could have a laxative effect. So the trick with magnesium is to divide the dose, take it on an empty stomach. I guess that's 2 tricks. It's like Monty Python. Oh, 3. There's 3 tricks. Take an absorbable form. I like magnesium citrate because it's cheap. And another thing I do is I take my magnesium in the middle of the night, because then my stomach's really pretty empty. So I get up in the middle of the night for various and sundry reasons. And one of the things I will do is to have some magnesium a couple of times at night. So magnesium, B complex, and niacin, get to the doctor and get that weight off, because you don't have a choice.
So the second part of this question concerning this relative, he also has a lot of bubbles in his urine. Is this due to a degeneration of the kidneys? He takes vitamin C about, and it says 2 milligrams, but perhaps 2,000 milligrams is meant. 2 milligrams 3 times daily, and also niacin 500 milligrams 2 times a day, but the bubbles are still there. What do you recommend? And this is still concerning this same relative here.
All right. Well, foamy urine could be just because you urinate hard when you really have to go. I mean, it's possible that it has no connection at all. If you don't drink enough water, the urine can be more concentrated, and that can cause the foaming. Pregnancy even can do it, because pregnancy, I'm sure Helen would verify this, pregnancy can cause all kinds of stuff. Don't evaluate and take things too seriously, ladies, when you're pregnant, because everything is up for grabs. Just do the best you can. But there's one thing that we do know, and that is that foamy urine is an indication of proteinuria, which means too much protein in the urine. And this can be and is often caused by diabetes or high blood pressure. So because of what you said, the person has high blood pressure and they have foamy urine, get their fanny to a doctor right away. You got to get that blood pressure down. This is not something you can fiddle around with. If they don't want to go to the doctor, carry them. And if you can't lift them, get some friends, do an intervention. That blood pressure has to come down, because high blood pressure hurts your kidneys. And there's some evidence here that the kidneys are not having a particularly happy time of it. So this has to be dealt with right away. That's the answer. I know it's a hard answer, but I'm not going to beat around the bush. Just because I have a book called Fire Your Doctor and another one called Doctor Yourself does not mean I don't think you should go. I think you should not need to go. The trick is not avoiding doctors. The trick is not needing to go to them. But if you need to go, you're a nut if you don't. You have a toothache? Go to the dentist. If you're cold, put on a sweater. Do what you got to do. If you hear your son or daughter crying from the other room, go and see what's wrong. You have to get on it. You have to react to the situation. And this situation, you want to get on right away. So I hope this answer is thorough enough for you. I'd also like to make a little postscript here for the woman who had the alopecia and the male hormone issues there, the androgenic alopecia, the male hormone hair loss issue. It is possible that you want to check and see if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it is one of the reasons women can develop this condition. Only your doctor can really answer this, and I think you should bring that forward. You probably don't, but in medicine, the phrase that's used is you need to rule it out. You need to rule it out. Don't be in the dark, because if that's what the problem is, the doctors might be able to help you out by addressing this. So check out polycystic ovarian syndrome. Make sure that you're not dealing with that.
Our next question. It has been said that isotretinoin is derived from vitamin A and helps skin recovery. Can this substance be considered a vitamin? Is it safe?
No, it cannot be considered a vitamin, and it's not safe. And I'm not saying this because I have it in for Big Pharma. Although I have to admit, I'm opposed to almost everything Big Pharma does. I would like to say that I do that with scientific objectivity rather than just being peeved. Now, this particular stuff here is a derivative of vitamin A. Why not just use vitamin A? Well, because there isn't a drug market or a patent available for cheap vitamin A. Vitamin A is safer than its derivatives. And if you're concerned about the safety of vitamin A as fish oil, you can take beta carotene in plants for which there is no overdose level. If you take too much beta carotene or eat too much yellow or orange squash or too much pumpkin, like my son did when he was little, he just loved carrots and squash and pumpkin and sweet potatoes, and he was eating so much of these vegetables, I thought, well, this is great. Well, he turned orange. Now that's harmless, and I backed off the amount of the vegetables and started giving him more variety. I was a young parent. I didn't know what I was doing when I was 23. There are those who will say that I still don't, but I am less in the dark than I was back then. So beta carotene vitamin A is completely safe. There is no evidence of harm. Even the Merck manual, the Cliff's Notes of medical school, will tell you that it is a harmless condition. The skin turns orange. It goes away when you back down on the dose. If you have been told or heard that vitamin A is dangerous to smokers or that beta carotene is dangerous to smokers because of a stupid study that was done over in Europe, the answer is beta carotene is not dangerous to smokers. Smoking is dangerous to smokers. It isn't the carrots, folks, it's the camels. So let's make sure that we understand that beta carotene is safe. That's the way I suggest you take your vitamin A. Your body will then make the conversion to the extent it wants to. This is the way to get more veggies and veggie juice in your diet, and that's why I keep harping on this. Now this stuff, this isotretinoin, is often used for people that have cystic acne. If antibiotics fail, there's another example of doing it wrong. Antibiotics for acne. What's wrong with these people? Change your diet, get the juicer going, you probably won't need it. Nobody wants acne, but what are you willing to do to get rid of it? And one of the things you can do is that juicing and plant-based diet. When you take isotretinoin, I actually am surprised to see this, but you have to take not one but 2 pregnancy tests to show you're not pregnant before you start. Now that assumes you're female. And then you have to have pregnancy tests done while you're taking it. You're required to use 2 kinds of birth control for 1 month before care begins and for at least 1 month after care ends. You have to sign up for the iPledge protein, and you have to avoid driving and doing other tasks or actions that call for you to be alert or have clear eyesight until you see how it affects you. Now I'm reading this right off the description. You're not to donate blood while using that medication. Have your blood checked. You may get sunburn more easily. If you have high blood sugar, diabetes, the medicine may raise and increase the problem. Check your blood sugar if you've been told to. Good advice. Your skin may look worse before it looks better. Don't drink alcohol. And there are certain medications that you need to avoid. No to dermabrasion or laser treatments. The medicine may cause weak bones and tendon problems, and you better have a bone density test and talk with your doctor. And by the way, there's more. Lowered night eyesight, raised pressure in the brain, very bad bowel problems, affect the growth of children and teens, and the danger of birth defects. That is an awful lot of stuff. And to me, that medication is to be avoided. So juice and change your diet, please. And if that doesn't work, then we'll consider the dramatic, heroic, dangerous side effect laden medication. When in doubt, everyone now, when in doubt, use nutrition. Use nutrition first. Very good. Everybody gets an A.
I heard that vitamins K2 and D3 work better together and in combination with magnesium can improve heart and bone health. Is this really true?
Yes. Every once in a while, I get to do that. I get to give a one-word answer. And you know, the reason I get to do that is because you asked such a easy to answer, succinct, concise, useful question. Yeah, you know, with vitamin K2, all you got to do is eat kale. I have kale in my garden. I can't give it away quick enough. I pull it out, it grows back. I bury it in the compost pile. It grows back through the compost pile. It seeds, it spreads. My much better half doesn't care for kale very much, and I always come in and make a point to tell her how well the kale is doing and how much we have. The neighbors run the other way when they see me coming with plastic bags full of anything, assuming that it's kale. Kale, 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 the gang's all here. Kale is the best source of vitamin K there is in the plant kingdom. And if you're arguing over the different forms of kale, I'd like to remind you that your body does make the conversion. You do not have to get designer K supplements. You can if you want. If you have lots of money, go nuts, have a great time. But if you have kale, 1 teaspoon a day of cooked kale is enough vitamin K for you. 1 teaspoon, that's not very much. So kale is the way to go, cooked or raw. And you can also make vitamin K by having probiotics such as yogurt. Your body will make vitamin K right in your own intestine. There's discussion on whether there's enough of it made, and I think the reason some people don't make enough K in their intestines is because we take too darn many antibiotics. And antibiotics kill off good bacteria as well as bad ones. Another reason I think people don't make more vitamin K in their intestine is because they eat way too much meat and pasty, starchy, low-fiber foods, overcooked foods, and things that cause constipation. Too much sugar, too much junk food. I think this is one of the reasons we don't make more vitamin K. When I taught clinical nutrition, I rarely recommended vitamin K supplements because I focused on the good colon environment and how your body can make the K. So between making the K with probiotics, cheap ones such as yogurt, and eating the K by having some kale, you're going to get plenty of K. With vitamin D3, get out in the sun. And you can also remember that that advice comes from people that actually have studied this. Hollick is a good example. Dr. Michael Hollick, the university, I think Boston University. I interviewed him some years ago. The interview is at dryourself.com. And Dr. Hollick was talking about sun exposure, sensible sun exposure. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, oh, without sunblock, 15 to 20 minutes of sun every other day, maybe 3 times a week. And for that, they fired him from his post at the hospital. And he was booted out of the American Academy of Dermatology, or whatever that organization might be, for giving that wild, terrible advice. Well, I think it's brilliant. I also asked Dr. Hollick, well, you say that people in northern climates need extra vitamin D. What's a northern climate? And he said, anything north of Atlanta, Georgia. Now, if you know the United States at all, you know that Georgia is in the south. So this gives you an idea of how much we need vitamin D. Vitamin D is good for you. I'd recommend normally that people take between 1,500 and 5,000 units of vitamin D a day. I think you should get your vitamin D levels checked, and you can do that very easily by asking your doctor to do so. Don't have to check them every day, but every time you go in for a physical, perhaps, or you happen to be in there for some other reason, get your vitamin D level checked.
Our next question is this. My case is unique. I have battled nonstop illnesses since childhood and was initially diagnosed with third stage cancer in my 20s and again in my 30s. Fast forward 6 years ago, I was told to get my affairs in order at age 38. Not from cancer, but simply because my body started shutting down from years of illness and medications. I was on 27 pills a day at one time. I left my career in law and have spent the last 6 years searching full-time for health I have never had. No one has been able to heal me completely, although I have had some amazing strides and some results I didn't even think were possible. However, my final symptoms that have kept me from leading a normal life still lingered until I started following Dr. Saul's vitamin protocol, which I admit I didn't believe would work. I have been symptom-free now for 3 months with mild recurrence, and I'm very much winging my supplement intake. I'm looking for information on which supplements I should up or lower or try to add to find my best quote-unquote cocktail. I have no issue trying things out on my own and using, for instance, biofeedback. I've become an expert at this. My issue is that this huge improvement has been done blindly, and I just need some guidance on which vitamins are most likely responsible for this. I'd like not to have any further reoccurrences if possible. I have every orthomolecular book I can get my hands on, and so far, I have not been able to find any information that pertains to my particular symptoms. Even if no help is possible at this time, these last 3 months have already been the best of my life, and I have never felt this good for this long in 44 years.
Wow. Well, I appreciate the compliment in there, first of all, but it's right back at you. For somebody that was told to get their affairs in order and you just refused to quit, I think you deserve the credit here. I'd love to take credit for the fact that you took a lot of vitamins and you kept fighting and you came back from 27 medications a day and were told to pack it up when you were 38 and you just don't take no for an answer, which is really good. So congrats, nice work, appreciate that, and thank you for sharing it. You've seen amazing strides and results, you said, that you didn't think possible. You know, it's just amazing what the body can do. Every person has cancer cells in their body, everybody. You've got 40 trillion cells. This number is bigger than the national debt. This is a big, slightly bigger than the national debt. This is a big number. So we all have a few weird cells in there. The trick is not letting them take over. I was going to consider getting treatment on my lawn because I thought I might have grubs. I would dig up some things to plant a bush or, excuse me, or I would dig up an area of the lawn and find little grubs once in a while. And I thought, oh man, I don't want to do it, but maybe I should get some grub killer. And the more I read, the more I found out that a few grubs are normal and they won't affect your lawn at all if you do everything else right. If you give it fertilizer and if you water it and you cut it higher, it'll have a better root system and it will outgrow the eating that the grubs do. In other words, if you positively make your lawn stronger, the grubs are irrelevant and you don't have to use the poison. This has, I think, a wonderful analogous application to the human body. We all have a few grubs in us. We all have a few cancer cells in us. The question is, are they going to take over? And in your case, they didn't. And I'm happy about that. I think the best thing to realize here is that there isn't any one vitamin. People ask me, what's this vitamin good for? And now I say, everything. And that irks people, but it's pretty much true. What's money good for? It's good for all kinds of things. You can give it to charity. You can buy a new boat. You can do this. You can do that. You can buy vitamins. You can buy organic food. You can help a neighbor. You can save for college. You can pay for college. You can keep paying for college. There's all kinds of things you can do if you have money. So vitamins are good for many things, and each vitamin is good for many, many things. There's only about 3 dozen nutrients. You got 40 trillion cells. There's tens of thousands of chemical reactions. Obviously, each vitamin is going to have to do more than one thing. So the shotgun approach or the cocktail approach sounds like it's not really a good idea, but in a way it is, because a balanced diet and a multivitamin have a whole variety of nutrients. And that's why they're so good for you. The reason vegetable juices are good for you is not because they have beta carotene only. It's because they have all kinds of stuff, all kinds of minerals, all kinds of things that are good for you. So having a variety of good foods, whole unprocessed foods, and a variety of vitamins, you're going to have a strong body. And I think that's what you're doing. I don't mean to be flippant, but I don't think you really need all that much guidance because you're the one who beat the odds with stage 3 cancer, and I think you're on the right track. So I would say what the old doctor would say. I don't know how you're doing it this well, but whatever you're doing, don't change it. And doctors say that to me all the time. They wonder why I take all these vitamins. But they agree that I'm healthy, and they say, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Sounds a little condescending, but I think it's okay. I can work with that. My doctor and I have a deal. I stay healthy, she's happy. She doesn't care at all how I pull it off. She wants me healthy, she's very nice, I like her. She doesn't know anything about nutrition, but she knows a lot about human nature and a lot about the human body. And I know a lot about nutrition, I hope. So the combination works very well, and she and I get along just great. I want to make her look good because if she looks good, I'm alive. That's what my flight instructor said on my first flight lesson. I was kind of nervous, and he looked at me and saw that I was nervous. He looked at me and he said, first of all, I am not going to let you kill me. So you're already doing the right thing. You're alive and kicking and you're feeling better than ever, and I'm just delighted. Now, as far as books goes, I realize you've mentioned that you have a lot of orthomolecular books, but just to make sure you have the orthomolecular treatment of chronic disease, that one is relatively new and there's an awful lot in there. I would recommend that. And if you really want to put something on your Christmas list for Santa this year, how about you ask for a copy of Alan Gaby's book, Nutritional Medicine? It's $200 and some for this book, and it's big, and I mean it's an enormous book, and it's really good. Dr. Gaby is no fool. He really knows what he's talking about. I am very, very happy to recommend this book as this little review that I'm giving you now is. I know it's fearsomely expensive, but if you don't have it in your library and you have everything else, you know, the holidays are coming. This might be a good excuse to spring for it. So that's just called Nutritional Medicine. by Alan Gaby. I think it's in a second edition now, and I would highly recommend that. That's going to give you enough to read for a good long time. So congrats. Keep on doing it. Remember that eating right and taking vitamins makes your body stronger. The vitamin doesn't stop cancer, really. Your body does. Okay, vitamin C is selectively toxic to cancer cells, yes. Antioxidants, yes. Nutrients and such, they all have their special little advantages, and we know certain things about selenium and how that prevents cancer, and vitamin A and all these others. But really, what they do is they make you strong, and it's your body that stops the cancer. And you're doing that. And we know that because your letter is telling us, and you have no reason to say anything but the truth. And I'm really glad you brought that forward. So that's a long answer, but then you had a long question.
Yes, I was smiling because as you were talking about those books, I've got them right up there. I sprung for the expensive one and also the orthomolecular treatment of chronic disease, both wonderful.
Right, and if you look carefully at Helen's bookshelf, you'll notice that Dr. Gaby's book, that's the big dark bar there.
The blue one there.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. And under that is Doctor Yourself, which is half its thickness. And then above it is the orthomolecular treatment of chronic disease, which is about 2/3 of its thickness. So people that take this course usually are either coming in brand new and don't know where to start, or they're already into it, but they have advanced needs and questions and they really want to learn more. And I'm glad to talk to everybody. My mom said education should make you want to learn more. And that's why it's so much fun to do these courses and do the webinars. You know, I take a long time on answers, but you're paying for this. And personally, I don't have a problem with that. I've got the time. And I think it's important that we give you a sense not only of what you can do, but the fact that you really can do it. And I don't mind being your coach here. I don't mind saying to you, yeah, now go do more. Yeah. You know, you won the World Series, now let's win it again. Why not? Why not be healthy? Sure, you got to work your butt off. But if you're sick, you got to work your butt off too. If you're chronically ill, you got to work your butt off. And if you take a lot of medications, you still are uncomfortable. So if you got to do the work anyway. Man is born to trouble as the sparks fly upward. It's in the book of Job. And we have a lot of suffering, a lot of things we have to do. You might as well be healthy. You got to do the work. You might as well do it right. You got to make dinner. You might as well have a good dinner. You got something you want to read. You might as well read something that's really going to help you. So good job, folks. There's more questions.
Yes, a few more here. Hello, Andrew Saul. Thank you so much for doing this for us and being there for us. I am part of a wonderful Facebook group on all natural healing, and they believe in not using any medications or synthetics for healing, using only whole food supplements. I agree with this idea, so I'm feeling conflicted with using synthetic vitamins and supplements. Can you help me with this? And if you did just use synthetic vitamins from the health food store per se, how do you know which one to pick? There are some poor ingredients, including genetically modified organisms, GMOs, gluten, magnesium stearate, titanium oxide, hydrogenated oils, MSG or monosodium glutamate, artificial colors, et cetera, in a lot of vitamins and supplements.
Good question. Thank you very much for your kind words. It's always a rush here. I appreciate that. First of all, I think it's a really good idea to get as many vitamins as you can from foods. And I recommend that people have really good whole foods diet, and then they take supplements to supplement that diet, because not even the best diet has enough vitamin E as an Edward. I used to ask my clinical nutrition students, design a diet that someone would actually eat that gives you 100 units of vitamin E a day. And I recommend people take 400 of E. So just to get 100, you can't design a diet. Nobody will consume that much olive oil. Nobody will eat that many nuts. Nobody will eat that much wheat germ. The same is true with a number of other things. Vitamin C. Almost no one will consume Linus Pauling recommended amounts of vitamin C. You'd have to eat dozens upon dozens upon dozens of oranges a day. People aren't going to do that. So get as much as you can from your natural foods, and then you take supplements for the missing fractions. Niacin. Niacin is found in many foods, but you're just not going to get enough niacin from your whole grains and meats and other sources. You're just not going to get Abram Hoffer levels of niacin no matter what you do. You see what I'm saying here? The thing that irks me about whole food supplements is that I am finding fraud in that industry. I have been looking very carefully at so-called whole food supplements. And I know how to read a label, folks. I've been doing it for 41 years. And I know how to write to a manufacturer. And when I look into this, I am finding that almost all companies are giving you a whole food supplement that contains synthetic vitamins to bring it up to the label claim. Here's how you can check this out. Do what I do. Read the labels, write to the companies, and ask them, are all the vitamins, all the levels of vitamins on your label claim entirely from foods and foods alone? Not one manufacturer that I've ever contacted or read about can say yes to that. There are some that take synthetic vitamins and process them through yeasts or other organisms and then call them natural. Well, I would admit that's interesting and it might even work very well, but I don't consider that a food source vitamin. I consider that a synthetic vitamin that's been money laundered through a living system. It's still coming from a synthetic vitamin. Is it going to work and be better for you? Perhaps. Does it justify the high cost? I don't think so. But my major problem is with whole food supplements that actually contain synthetic vitamins, and that's how they get their label claim. One of the big flags here is potency. If you have a multivitamin that says you only need to take 1 or 2 of these a day, and it'll give you this label claim, and that label claim is much higher than the RDA, they must be using synthetic vitamins to beef it up, because the B vitamins come from grains, wheat germ, certain things like that, and you can only fit so much of that in a tablet. So to have a mega dose in a whole foods tablet, the tablet would have to be the size of a harmonica. This annoys a lot of people, but I'm sorry. I don't think you should pay whole food prices for a synthetic product. If somebody wants to make a whole food vitamin where all the vitamins are actually from food, I'm on board with that. Now, there are some companies that come pretty close. But even the most reliable of these produced a product, and I saw it, and it contained ascorbic acid. Once again, good idea, all your vitamins from food. Not practical. You can't get megadoses that way, and you can't get a tablet small enough to swallow. So what I say is have your whole foods not in supplements. Instead of having whole food supplements, just eat the whole foods, and you'll get all the good stuff that way. And then supplement with the cheap laboratory vitamins. Now, how come I can say this with such confidence? Because almost all clinical success using vitamins, almost all successful research with vitamins has used cheap laboratory synthetic vitamins. Now, there are some exceptions. One is vitamin E as an Edward. You don't want synthetic vitamin E. You need vitamin E in the natural form, and that's from a vegetable oil. This is D as in Doug, alpha tocopherol. And even better would be D-alpha and all the other natural tocopherols and tocotrienols. This is the best form of vitamin E. The synthetic is DL, and that definitely is not as good. So I have to moderate what I'm saying with this caution. that synthetic vitamin E is an Edward is not a good idea. But with vitamin C, it is a good idea. And with niacin, it is a good idea. And with riboflavin and thiamine, it is a good idea. And with most other vitamins, the synthetic forms work very, very well. Not going to get a lot of popularity from your Facebook group for what I'm saying now, but you asked me. I have an obligation to tell you the truth as I see it. And if you don't like my peaches, don't shake my tree. Write to the companies. You may find an actual company that does nothing but concentrated foods in tablets, but they're going to be big tablets and they're going to be low potency.
What about people that have stomach issues, like nauseous, throw up, stomach pain because of too acidic of vitamin C? So they're taking high doses of vitamin C and suffering these side effects. And kind of in combination with that question about stomach distress, are there negative side effects for taking high doses? For example, my husband takes one, and it says TB, so I'm
tablespoon,
yes, of pure ascorbic acid, soluble fine crystal powder every morning, which brings him, not surprisingly, to bowel tolerance. Dad and I are both like, oh my goodness, that'll do it within an hour every day. Oh wow, a whole hour it took. Is this okay? He loves the fact that it cleans him out in the morning, even though he doesn't have a problem with having a bowel movement or two a day, even without the vitamin C. So those two questions, and thank you for all that you do.
Oh, that's wonderful. You give me this colorful question on a delightful topic, and then you thank me for all I do as well. That is just plain nice. Thank you for what you do. Okay. I don't know if you meant tablespoon, but that's what TB or TBL means. A tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. 1 teaspoon is between 4,000 and 5,000 milligrams of ascorbic acid. So you're talking 12 to 15 grams of vitamin C. I believe you said first thing in the morning, and bowel tolerance in an hour. Yep, that's how it works. So you divide the dose and take less. Take less C, take it more often, you reduce this. This is a way to avoid having that symptom. If you use it as a laxative, okay, it's better and safer and cheaper than any laxative on the market. So that's one way you can get an advantage out of this. But a tablespoon of ascorbic acid or 3 teaspoons of ascorbic acid, I think is too much at one time, unless somebody has a reason for it. If they're very, very sick, let's say they had influenza, then they'd want to take huge amounts. I've taken, literally, I take it, in fact, in the vitamin movie, you'll see me taking 16,000 milligrams of vitamin C at one time. Now, I was under a lot of stress, making a movie and being on camera and looking gorgeous and traveling around and all the things that we movie stars have to do. I'm kidding, folks. My daughter is giving me that, oh, Dad, look. But I'm used to that. The fact is I was under stress. So I could take 16,000 milligrams of C, and I didn't have the slightest sign of bowel tolerance, because I would have noticed if we were on location filming, don't you think? What you weren't told, though, is that that was take 2. They had to redo the take, so I actually took 32,000 milligrams of vitamin C at once. Now, I don't recommend that you do that unless you're really ill. And when I'm really ill, I will literally take 15 or 20,000 milligrams of C per dose until I get to saturation. Once I had influenza, really bad, it took me a day and a half. I was shoveling in vitamin C, you wouldn't believe it. I would take capsules and powder at the same time, over and over and over and over again, till I could not bear to look at a glass of juice. I took so much C, and I didn't get to saturation until the middle of the following day, but I was sick as a dog. Better to prevent that, of course, by dividing the dose of C and taking it all the time. Now, if there's any stomach upset, the first thing you need to understand is that ascorbic acid is a weak acid, and although it's not nearly as strong as your stomach acid, some people are sensitive to it. What you need to do is buffer it. The simplest way to buffer it is by increasing the volume of stuff in your stomach. So have food with your vitamin C, or have liquid with your vitamin C. That will reduce the acidity right there. Or you can buy buffered vitamin C, or you can use calcium or magnesium ascorbate or sodium ascorbate. These are all neutral. When you take calcium ascorbate, you're going to get calcium. It's about 11% calcium. If you take sodium ascorbate, you're going to get sodium. It's about 10% sodium. And if you take magnesium ascorbate, you're not going to like the taste very much, but you'll get magnesium, and that's more expensive. If you are taking ascorbic acid, you can take it with a calcium tablet or a magnesium tablet, or you can take it with a little bit of baking soda, the stuff in the orange box. Linus Pauling suggested that. You can mix your C with baking soda and make a nice little foamy fire extinguisher. It'd be like a head on a glass of beer, and then drink that down. Or you can simply have the ascorbic acid in juice and then chase it with a little bit of juice with a quarter or a half a teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate in it. Don't use too much sodium bicarbonate. I did that once, and I had a mild explosion in my stomach. Now, I don't want you to have that problem, but I took a lot of ascorbic acid, vitamin C, and then I thought, oh, I better take some sodium bicarbonate. And I didn't measure it very carefully. I think I had about a teaspoon and a half or more, and swallowed it, and whoo, I became a little foam fire extinguisher. Don't let that happen to you. Just take a small amount of sodium bicarbonate. This is what Linus Pauling recommended, and once I paid attention to what he said, I never had the problem again. So buffer, buffer, buffer. You can use non-acidic C. You can have more liquid or more food. You can take smaller doses. Maybe you don't need that much. Divide the doses more often. That will help as well. Or you can take it with a calcium magnesium tablet and buffer it that way.
Our last couple of questions here. First of all, thank you for all of your hard work and dedication to helping us learn and live better. Do you have any recommendations for reading, research, etc., for someone suffering from systemic autoimmune disease, including adrenal insufficiency, Addison's disease, thyroid, pituitary, gastrointestinal, systemic inflammation, and more? I want to heal my body and not mask my symptoms with pharmaceuticals.
A good goal. When we are discussing autoimmune diseases, it's sometimes assumed that vitamins would help to boost, build, and strengthen the immune system, and thereby make an autoimmune disease worse. Now, you could argue that as long as you want, but I think it would be more constructive to take a look at a doctor that actually treated autoimmune diseases with very high doses of vitamins. Now, multiple sclerosis is generally considered to be an autoimmune disease. I'm not sure that it is. I'm not sure anybody's sure of much with MS. If there were a cure for MS, you would have heard about it. Well, there is, and you haven't. Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner, whose protocol is a free download at dryourself.com, the Klenner protocol for multiple sclerosis is a massive vitamin protocol. All kinds of vitamins are in there, pretty much everything, in pretty large doses. And this is what Dr. Klenner gave to his MS patients. Now, this paper was published in 2 parts in the Townsend Letter for Doctors. And I have permission to post that at dryourself.com, and it is extensive and really important that you take a look at it. Klenner lived a while ago, and at that time our knowledge of autoimmune diseases was almost certainly less than it is today. But if we know so much, how come we're not trying Dr. Klenner's protocol today? Because he reported that it worked then. And although we may know more about things now, multiple sclerosis hasn't changed and the human body hasn't changed. People had MS in the 50s and 60s and 70s. They did. I had a couple of good friends with MS. One was a young woman. She went down so fast, it was unbelievable. The other was a woman who was about 60, and she lived to be an old woman and had only mild problems. I have a friend today with multiple sclerosis that's been taking huge amounts of vitamins, and the disease has simply not progressed. In fact, I would say she's marginally better. And I had a client once who had bad MS and was in a wheelchair. He was wheeled in by his RN, his own private registered nurse, and she was the health nut. And she brought him in because she wanted him to hear about all this. And I said, well, I'm just going to tell you what Dr. Kleiner did. Just get going on all these vitamins and get the juicer going. That guy was out of his wheelchair and walking around the house in about 10 days. He was using a walker. But it's a big difference to walk around with a walker than with a not be able to walk around at all with a wheelchair. It's a huge difference between walker and wheelchair. And that was in less than 2 weeks. So I think Dr. Kleiner's onto something, and his reports in the Clinical Guide to the Use of Vitamin C, which is available on the internet for free, just do a Google search for it. Clinical Guide for the Use of Vitamin C by Frederick Robert Kleiner. And his protocol for MS at drself.com. Now, this is a roundabout way of going at it, but if it works for one autoimmune disease, it might work for another. I'm not sure, but to me, it's worth a shot. You got a better idea? Does the medical profession say, oh yes, we have all kinds of cures available for these autoimmune diseases? I don't think so. I think they're just trying to palliate them. I think they're just trying to help people get by, not cure them. Kleiner was reporting reversal, and I think that's interesting. If Dr. Kleiner gave massive doses of vitamins to someone with an autoimmune disease, it shows not only that it has therapeutic promise and utility, but it also shows it's safe because it didn't make them worse. How come high doses of immune-boosting vitamins don't make an autoimmune disease worse? And I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you why I think so. I think the autoimmune disease concept proceeds from a false assumption. I think it assumes that the person is getting enough vitamins. I think autoimmune diseases are vitamin deficiency diseases, and we just don't admit it. I think it's scurvy, pellagra, beriberi by a new name. If you take a look at the classic vitamin C and vitamin B complex deficiency diseases, they all have severe neurological side effects. They all have severe neurological symptoms. If you don't have enough thiamine, or if you don't have enough riboflavin, or if you don't have enough pantothenic acid, or if you don't have enough niacin, or if you don't have enough folic acid, or if you don't have enough cobalamin B12, if you don't have enough of these vitamins, if you have none, you will have neurological symptoms and disease. I think they're simply renaming this syndrome into autoimmune diseases because the medical profession and the pharmaceutical profession don't want to admit that it's malnutrition. I may be wrong. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a specialist. But Dr. Kleiner was a medical doctor, and he was a specialist in diseases of the chest. And he did see patients, and he did reverse the problem, and he did publish his results, and you need to read this. So that's Kleiner's protocol for treating MS because it applies to autoimmune diseases in general.
The second question is this. I am a junior in college and my major is culinary nutrition. I will be applying for my dietetic internship soon, and I do not want to train under the standard ADA guidelines. Any suggestions on where I could apply for an internship that teaches real health and not fake farm or pharmaceutical medicine?
I do not know specifically. I don't know specifically where you could go for an internship for dietetics or culinary nutrition or anything for that matter that would reflect anything that I have said in this webinar or anything that orthomolecular doctors say in their writings and videos. I hope you find one. If you do, please let me know. Personally, I would advise you to forget absolutely everything I've ever said or written until you finish your dietetic internship, because it's just going to get you in trouble. And I worked at a chiropractic college. I taught clinical nutrition there. I have taught for the State University of New York for about 9 years. And it's been nothing but trouble. The moment you mention this, well, you can clear out a faculty lunchroom in a hurry just by talking about high-dose vitamin E. And I did one day, fool that I was, just kind of mentioning it. By the way, Drs. Wilford and Evan Shute were actually curing these cardiovascular diseases back in the 1960s. And somehow lunch was over. I'd been invited there for lunch, and everybody kind of had to leave, and I was never invited again. And this has happened every time I go to teach. I'm constantly getting in trouble because I open my big mouth. And don't you do that while you're on your internship, because they will have you for breakfast. If you can find an internship that reflects orthomolecular teachings, once again, please let me know. I have a suggestion for you. If you are a junior in college, you are positioned in, without too much additional work, to look for admission to chiropractic college or naturopathic medical college. Now, medical schools are very hard to get into, as are veterinary schools. And while I admire dentists, that's a little bit off the track here. But it's easier to get into a chiropractic college and become a doctor of chiropractic than it is to get into medical school. It's not easy, but it's easier. The same with naturopathic medicine. There are some very good residential schools of naturopathic medicine, and you might want to consider going that route. That would get you a credential, a doctorate, and in, I think, 14 or 15 states in the United States, you can be licensed as a naturopathic physician. And in all states in the US, you can be licensed as a chiropractic doctor. Naturopathic medical schools have a lot on nutrition. Chiropractic schools have more on nutrition than medical schools. And medical schools have a little bit on nutrition, mostly telling you that everything you've heard today is wrong. The funny thing is, everyone I've quoted to you today is a medical doctor. I'm not. They are. My father used to say, when you really want to know something, Andrew, ask the organ grinder, not the monkey. When I want to know how to cure patients, I ask doctors who do it. And that's why we present the way we do. Orthomolecular physicians are curing patients. That's the bottom line. You follow that, follow your bliss, and you'll be fine. You may have to jump through some hoops to get your credential, but don't lose sight of the goal. And if you can, try to see your way through to go into chiropractic or naturopathic schools. I don't know you, but I just have a sense here that if you're already a junior in college, you've already worked for 3 years, and you probably have the academic capability to push your education a little further. I urge you to do it.
All right, well, thank you so much. That's the end of our question session for today. I appreciate your detailed and in-depth responses, and I hope very much that your listeners do too. And until next time, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.